Nihanyang, hello, I am the Dark Fey, and welcome back to Confessions of a First-Time Dungeon Master. So here we are with session 13. I'm hopefully not getting too many details confused with 13 and 14, but here we go. So for session 13, we had ended the last session, which I'll put a link to up in the top as always. Ended the last session with kind of finding that mushroom grove and encountering a mysterious kind of vanishing woman there, but without any other leads or really means of tracking her. The party decides to continue on to the Soulbell Grove to help Rendry and the Furbolg tribe with the Catoblepas problem. So let's see, Rendry, I don't think gives them too much. There isn't too much more information, so honestly they just go to the Soulbell Grove. They know a little bit kind of about their means of attack, how they have a deadly gaze and very heavy bludgeony tails. I did kind of edit these Catoblepas a little bit. I lessened the damage dice of their Death from 8d8 to 6d8. D8, not 68, but 6d8, and then instead of the death gaze kind of portion where if they are reduced to 0 hit points they die, I changed it instead to if you're reduced to 0 hit points then you lose a death saving throw. That way it's a little bit more urgent, but it's not instant death, because I didn't really like that mechanic for failing on just kind of one saving throw and then potentially dying, because 68, if they do the max damage, if they do max damage, which happens if you fail by 5 or more, then that's 48 points of damage. That outright kills a lot of my players at level 5, with the exception I think of Basil, who is a high con. So I kind of changed it a little bit. So about combat, this encounter I liked. I did like the Catoblepas mechanics. I did end up throwing 2 of them. So Catoblepas are CR5. I put 2 of them, and I think it was actually not difficult enough. It was decently difficult to the point where definitely in the beginning, after I got one death gaze where our bard, he failed the constitution save by more than 5, so he immediately took 48 points of damage. So that was a pretty big oh, these things are pretty deadly, we should be careful, or we should try to kill them quickly. So I think that went well, but it did kind of go how I expected, where the Catoblepas kind of get one major hit, and then after that it's a little bit hit or miss, partly because I think I didn't use the tails enough. The tail is actually also really interesting because once it hits someone, they have to roll, I think, also a con save, and if they fail then they're stunned until the start of the Catoblepas's next turn, or end of next turn, which can be pretty debilitating. But I found that since there's only 2 Catoblepas against a party of 6, 7, because our druid did conjure animals and conjured a giant boar, it kind of just becomes 2 hits in an initiative order of 9, and I find that's not quite effective enough to really present that sense of danger, unless the Catoblepas target one of them and are able to down them really quickly, which I'm thinking maybe I should have done instead of kind of spreading out their attacks, since the Catoblepas, their initiative order was right next to each other, which was also kind of interesting. But it ended up a few people did get fairly hurt. Morgal, our wizard, he did end up kind of going down, getting revived, and then getting knocked unconscious again, but nobody died, which was good. They set some portions of the swamp on fire, as Morgals want to do, but yeah, eventually they were able to kill the 2 Catoblepas, and then one by like cutting its stomach and the other by like chopping off its head. So Ivar gets the idea to bring the head with them. Eventually decided to take the head to like try and get just the skull as like a gift for Fairnay, which is like a cute bit of roleplay. And is actually something that she would probably like. So after they defeat the Catoblepas, Rendry goes and collects some of the soul bells, kind of tells them that the soul bell, which is, I guess I'll describe it for you, it's like a little like silver white bell-shaped flower with like the little stamen in the middle kind of acting as the, I don't know what it's called, the part that actually like rings the bell, like the counterweight, I suppose. And it's used in the Willow tribe's like resurrection rituals. And so he tells them like a little bit about kind of like what that entails and kind of a bit of the soul bell lore, which is like the soul bells grow where like creatures have lain to die, and can be used to kind of guide the soul back into the body. But anyways, so he's able to like gather some of them. I'm like waving my hands a lot in this one. He gathers some soul bells, and then they decide to head back to the they actually decide to stop by Flornissa to see if they can find out any more information about this mysterious woman, or like if there are any leads to follow. So instead of going around, Rendry leads them to Flornissa. I kind of have them roll a bit on the swamp survival table. It's just kind of to make travel, I think, a little bit more interesting instead of you have a guide, you just walk through the swamp, blah, blah, blah. And it also kind of, I think, helps to introduce them to the little possible like dangers or little possible hazards of the swamp, and to kind of give it a little bit more character. They arrive in Flornissa, and combat took a while, as it always does. So they just ended up doing a little bit of RP. So they found an inn called the Waving Willow, and secured some rooms. And Valkyrie finds out a little bit more about this like legend of the Marsh Keepers, and then she hears from the innkeeper kind of like general description, like what they look like and their names. So there's Zerlena, Emain, and Seisha, and she describes kind of the woman that they saw in the forest, and the innkeeper tells them that that sounds like one of the keepers, Seisha. So they kind of get the sense that like this like legend is probably real, and like these keepers do exist, and occasionally visit Flornissa. Not so much the Firbolg tribe, because they kind of act as protectors of the swamp who really only visit when they need help, or they are warning the people of like impending dangers, something like that. And Firbolgs abide by kind of the preservation of nature a lot, so there hasn't really been much of a reason to visit them. So that's kind of what they find out. And then meanwhile, I think Ivar and Basil, they go to the stables to find a place to put this head, because this head is like 3 feet long, not including like the horns, I guess. So it's about like from like my like a head to, it's like about the size of like a person's torso. I assume it's like fairly large. And it smells terrible because it's A, a rotting head, and B, from a Catoblepas, which is not a pleasant smelling animal. So then they find a pen for it, and then decide to get it like processed and tanned to like remove the bits of skin and flesh, so they have just the skull left. So they go to a tannery that I just kind of make up, call it the Hides and Tides, because they're on a lake. They've got like land animals and sea animals, but yeah, so I think they pay like 2 gold. I don't remember how much it exactly was. I think it was like 2 gold to get it boiled and like tanned and all of that. They ask for the Catoblepas eyes, because death ray eyes, I guess. So they wanted to keep them. So I think Tyrell went with them, and he called it a Catoblepuff or something, which made me laugh a lot. But yeah, so now they have a jar of Catoblepas eyes. They're getting the skull, and I think that's where we left it off. It actually took, this session actually took quite some time. We started a bit late, so we ended a bit late. I think he was closer to like the 4-hour mark, 3 hours and 45 minutes. But as I said, combat takes a long time when you've got a lot of people's turns. But I think they're getting close to kind of like the final encounter, which doesn't necessarily have to be combat. It can definitely resolve in a certain way, depending on how much they find out and what they decide to do. I personally think it will be combat, but maybe it's also potential that one of them will think up something that's like completely off the rails that I didn't account for. But we'll see. So I'm pretty excited actually for the end of this because it's some really cool stuff to prep, and like final boss encounters are always like the most fun and like intricate things to do. So I will be doing that for session 14. I don't know if they'll get there in that session, since they still have like quite a bit of investigating to do, I think, and that can take some time depending on what their party wants to do, if they want to split up, if they want to investigate all these different avenues. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. The story's been going pretty smoothly, and I think like the more regular cadence has been helping a lot in getting them kind of immersed and like into this quest that they are on. I'm trying to think if I left out anything else. But I don't think so. I think I'm definitely, with each like combat encounter, I'm learning a little bit more on like the extent of like what I can throw at my players. And I guess it's fine to kind of start off with not quite as difficult things, and then like it gets harder and harder and harder as they get more experienced and level up and all that. I'm feeling a little bad that they haven't leveled up in a while. I think, well, I leveled them up. They started at 4, which is already like kind of like a big boost, and then they went to 5 after they found after the like skull quest in the Yurikasi forest. So I'm planning to level them up after the final encounter here, which is probably at the end of session 15 is my guess, is what it will be. I guess that's not too bad if you like divide it in half. It's like 7 to 8 sessions. And then because some of them are shorter and some of them kind of are mostly either RP or like not filler sessions, but like not as much progress is being made versus some. And since there's not a real clear goal of what progress is, because I'm also kind of generating the story as I go rather than having kind of an overall story and like a goal that they're going towards, because I'm trying to keep it more open-ended and less kind of like a prepared campaign where you kind of have things like have milestones. So I'm kind of judging those milestones myself, so I'm still working on that a little bit. Yeah, but I'm excited definitely to prep for the next session. I think it's probably going to end up at like prep and then realize I didn't prep enough for like stuff in the middle, because I like looking towards the end and I like looking towards the final encounters. So I don't think I'll need to prep for like much else actually after next session. But anyways, yeah, that's actually kind of it. This is a little bit faster, minus my ramblings at the end, but thank you for watching. I hope you're enjoying following along with my campaign. Let me know if you have any questions about my world and if like what I've done for it, and I'd be happy to address them in the comments. So don't forget to like and subscribe and all that, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!